Would you say I have a reasonable understanding of how to execute these various sex acts problems?
Yes.
How awesome is that?
What you're doing is disgusting.
Listen, lady.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, how are we all doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I'm joined today by the degenerate that is Troy Francis. How are you doing, Mr. Troy Francis?
I'm very good, man. I'm very good. Thank you for having me on. That's a great intro video.
Thank you. I keep hearing that from all the guests I have on the show. So look, if everyone who hasn't seen it before keeps saying they like it, I'm going to keep playing it.
That is a great video. I enjoyed that very much. I like when you're saying to the girl, am I qualified to talk about these sexual positions? And presumably she looks like she was going to say yes. She definitely looks like she was saying yes.
She was actually one of the models in my sexual dominance escalation video course.
Oh, of course, right? Fantastic. So she knows the skills firsthand. Then
yes, that is the lovely Lola Faye. Her and I have worked together a few times. So
very good.
She's quite experienced in BDSM and things like that.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yes. She's like a lifestyler. Before she got into porn, she was a BDSM lifestyler, and now she's in porn. She actually does a bit of on the side. She actually does a bit of pro dom work.
Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah, interesting.
So,
good TV.
She's like this tall. She's tiny. And she weighs like 50 pounds. She's like nothing. And she weighs. So kind of the idea of her being is kind of humorous to me. Like a fully grown man.
But it's kind of crazy the stuff that you see, isn't it? I mean, I was saying on my stream the other day that I was in Berlin a while back, and every time I would go to Berlin, you just see all of this crazy stuff going on, as you can imagine. And I was in this club one time with a Russian girl, and we saw this Irish couple, and the girl was very petite, very feminine, very innocent looking. And a little bit later on, we walked around a corner, and there was a crowd of people around them, and the guy was strapped in a chair, and she was pegging him. So it's kind of amazing what people are into.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Look, do you miss Pleasure Garden?
Torture Garden.
Sorry, being lost in the UK right now.
Yeah, I miss it a lot. I mean, obviously in London we had Torture Garden, which is the famous big fetish BDSM club here. I think it's actually the biggest BDSM club in Europe. It probably is. I mean, it's pretty massive. And then over in Berlin, you've got a variety of things really, but you've certainly got Kit Kat Club, which is the weekly club night there every Saturday night, starts at 11 o'clock at night, goes pretty much all the way through Sunday. It's just a pit of degeneracy. You've got Insomnia over there as well, which is actually where I saw that pegging incident. You've got other different parties and things like this. And actually Torture Garden also now they did pre the virus, they do events in Berlin as well at a different venue. So there's I mean, Berlin is really the degenerates paradise, really. There's just all manner of stuff going on over there. Or there was.
Well, there was. Do you think we're headed to like a kind of like a Weimar Republic situation after the COVID stuff?
Well,
I've heard a lot of people say like the Roaring 20s was like this era of utter degeneracy in the 1920s, post-depression. And we're sort of like, here's the thing, I don't think we've reached the bottom yet.
Really?
So, some people think we're going to come out of it, like things are going to start to go back to normal, and everyone's going to be really degenerate because they've been locked up for a year. I don't think I'm being locked down, and I think we're due for a bit more lockdown. We're probably due for an economic collapse.
I think you might. Yeah. I think you might be right. I mean, the the thing about the Roaring Twenties and the new age of degeneracy and stuff, a lot of people have been saying it, and a lot of people quoted this book called Apollo's Arrow by a guy called Nicholas Christakis. I'm just reading it off my Audible because I actually downloaded it. And in that book, I haven't got to this bit yet. It sounds like the fun, juicy bits. I haven't got to it yet. It's all like boring stuff about epidemiology at the moment. But apparently in the fun, juicy bit, he says that because this guy, he's a PhD from like Columbia or Stanford or one of these places. And he studies pandemics. And he said that commonly after a pandemic has passed, then you do get this period of everyone just goes crazy because they've been sort of shut down, unable to do stuff for so long, which makes sense. And I think that then got picked up by a few different media outlets and they span it into a story and everything like that. But the sort of slightly downside to that was that he put a date on it of about something like 2025 or something like that. And the reason for that was he said, well, it's going to take a while for all of this to calm down anyway, as far as the virus itself is concerned. Then you're going to have a period of like the economic fallout and the sort of rebuilding from that. And, there are a few different things that he put in before we really hit that golden age of degeneracy. So I think you might be right. We might have to wait a little while for it, unfortunately.
Damn it, Troy. Look, here's me looking forward to actually going to some of these, because I've never been to these giant BDSM clubs that you've been to. And I'd very much like to.
Well,
I'd very much like to do that, but I'm going to 2025.
Well, I mean, let's see how it goes, though, because I suppose it's like as soon as, I mean, it's just the world's changed so much, hasn't it? Really, I mean, like it's at the moment, it's almost unthinkable to have a nightclub open in the UK, let alone a bloody nightclub where the whole purpose of it is everybody, gets into an orgy and climbs all over each other. I mean, it just seems like such a bygone thing, but you never know. I mean, when we get to the point that the nightlife can open again, I suppose, so maybe we're not actually looking for that, I mean, there are people over here saying, probably by the end of the year, we'll be pretty much back to normal or whatever, but I don't know, man. But certainly there are a lot of fun, those places. They really, really are.
2 weeks to slow the spread. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. But you've been kind of getting around a bit, haven't you, as it were, throughout the whole thing?
Like I always do, Troy.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I change? Yeah, and I've bounced around between a few countries now. What have I seen? I've seen the UK before it went into lockdown again.
Yes.
I saw, went through France, went through Spain, went through Portugal, went through Morocco, and now I'm back here in the USA. And
yeah,
I have to say, it was pretty, the place that was the freest was actually
Morocco.
Yeah. Morocco was, well, with the exception, Miami is actually the freest place I've been to right now, to be fair. So Florida / Miami is without a doubt.
Okay.
Like bars are open, people are out drinking bars. People don't really give a shit about enforcing mask laws.
Yeah, I'd heard about that because the governor has basically said, right, that's it. We're not locking down again. Yeah. Fill your boots, kind of thing, which is great, really. It's like a paradise on earth, apparently. But the guys were saying last night, Myron and Fresh were saying last night that they may internally try to stop people going into Florida now because everyone's trying to get in there because it's such a good place to be.
Yeah, because they're doing like they're the one that sort of figured out this is all bollocks. So they're like, all right, well, let's just keep business as usual and our economy won't suffer. So people are trying to move there. People like me are trying to move here. So hopefully I can, hopefully, because I'm here for like another week and a half, then I bounce back to Europe for a couple months, sort some things out there. And hopefully I can come back and it won't be, I won't be denied entry into Florida specifically. Because everyone was, this thing I realized, everyone was trying to tell me back, because when I was shooting porn in Angeles, right? I kept asking because I knew there's a porn industry out here in Florida.
Right.
It's like the third major hub here in America. You have Los Angeles, the big one, then Vegas, and then Miami. These are the three spots, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And I had so many people in LA. Whenever I asked somebody, "Oh, what's it like shooting in Florida? What's it like shooting in Miami?" I had so many people in LA tell me, "Oh, don't go out there. Don't go out there. It's dodgy. They're very they're not very professional. It's very dodgy. It's very like they kept trying to give me a bad impression of the Florida or Miami porn scene.
Okay.
And it is nothing like they describe. It is fantastic.
Really?
And here's what I think it is. It's too because it's like it's a big Latino culture here, and in you've got a lot of Venezuelans, you got a lot of Cubans, right? A lot of Colombians. You got a lot of people who, in particular with the Venezuelans and the Cubans, a lot of people who escaped communism.
Right.
Here,
yeah.
In Florida, so they don't fly with that shit.
Yeah.
What the Californians are all about. The Latinos here, they don't like no more of that crap. We just fled that. That's why I think one in LA, in the industry in LA, who's very, very lefty, was trying to tell me, don't go to Florida. They're terrible over there. But there's like a bit of machismo. Like it's a great culture. Everyone's having a good time. I'm like, this is brilliant. What are you all talking about? Why
that sounds pretty
working for so long? So now I'm getting I was on, like I said before we went live, I was on the Fresh and Fit podcast on Tuesday night by accident. I rocked up here. I was in town. They invited me on the show. Got to meet Kiki on the show, and she put me in touch with a couple of with a director out here, and I've got a couple of bookings already through him. So
wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll get
great. That is awesome. I mean, do you think that the industry, there's less of that sort of annoying kind of wokeness that you were talking about in LA over
That's
there?
the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, fantastic.
The impression I'm getting is definitely
Venezuelan girls are really attractive as well, aren't they? From what I've seen.
To be honest, I don't really have an understanding or experience with Venezuelan girls in terms of what they look like. I know what Brazilian girls look like. I know what Argentinian girls look like. I know what Colombian girls look like. Venezuelan, I haven't really had much experience with. So,
well, it'd be good to get some of that experience while you're over there.
Exactly. Look, it's research. I'm just do it
exactly.
Purely for research purposes.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to get a sense. We've got to get a sense of the global marketplace, haven't we? Here to
right?
To give that back to the guys.
Apparently, Florida was also kind of a big swingers community here in Florida.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Like an attractive swingers community, or like a load of middle-aged sort of.
Look, in my experience, wherever there is a swingers community, there is always a attractive tier, like a top tier. Of exclusive, attractive people. You just got to get invited to the party. So
yeah. There's got to be an element of that, hasn't there? I mean, like, because it can go one of two ways. You can get the kind of events where it is literally, sort of like a 50-year-old Karen and her husband in tow, and a lot of beer guts and all this kind of thing, and swapping, putting the car keys into the fruit bowl.
I've never done the whole keys in the bowl. Have you done that? Have you actually done that?
No. And the thing is as well, I mean, like, just imagine that it would just be awful, wouldn't it? What if you pull out the keys and it's just somebody who's just completely unattractive? It's just not, like I just rather go home and have a cup of tea, to be honest.
Spoken like a true Englishman.
Exactly. But no, the only thing
before I forget, real quick plug for Troy products here in the live chat. I've dropped the link in there. If you want to check out some of Troy's dating products, because this man, apart from being a degenerate, has a tremendous amount of experience in terms of dating and day game pickup, like fashion success, fashion branding, for like individual branding, I guess you could say. Yeah. So quick plug for your little stuff in there as well.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff over there, because I've been doing this stuff now for, I mean, really, it's 16 years in terms of doing it in a sort of tutored way, if you like, ever since I read the game. And then before then, I was doing it anyway, but I was just doing it in a very haphazard way, because everybody, when they're young, they go out and they chase girls, and I was going to all these different nightclubs and really just playing the numbers. Once I got going, it was really just volume, just going out, going to the club, burning the club down, basically like talking to every girl in the club, blah, blah, blah. Do I get traction here? Do I get traction there? No, blowout. No, blowout. Here's one that there's a little bit of a spark. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can progress this. And that was all I did. And then, 2004, I moved back down to London, and then the game came out in 2005. And like many people, I read that, and then all of a sudden you saw, oh right, so there's a bit more method to this than just the very haphazard approach that I was employing before. And then once you learn that, you go down this, I don't want to say rabbit hole, but you go into this, there's all of this knowledge out there for how that you could do kind of the same stuff that you were doing before, but just applying a little bit more structure to it so that it's just more efficient and more effective.
Yeah, and for me, the thing that always sort of helped, because I was always a guy who, like, I never knew what the fuck to say.
Yeah.
Like, it was always a case of, like, what do I say next, and what do I even talk about? And so, like, for me, the thing that really helped me with all this sort of pickup knowledge was like finding structures of like how to come up with things to say. Like, and a really good example of that would be something like, instead of asking questions, make statements.
Yes.
So for example, instead of saying something like, "Are you Venezuelan?" or like, or where, instead of saying something like, "Where are you from?" you'd be like, "You seem like a Venezuelan girl. You come like, I'm getting it. I think," or you know, you might phrase it like, "You look like you might have a bit of Venezuelan in you." It's a blanket. That is so much more interesting than asking the question, right? Because one question puts them in interview mode, and that is like, they can read into that in a million different ways, which creates drama, which creates different kind of emotions off of that, and it's just one tiny little tweak. Conversation.
Exactly. And the thing is, we're not taught this stuff, are we? I mean, I remember sitting around in bars when I was younger, and prior to I basically started drinking a lot and, you know, doing a lot of naughty substances and stuff. And I just kind of went, oh, sod it, and just threw myself into the deep end. But prior to that, I would sit around when I was 18, 19, whatever, watching other people, you know, other guys going in and talking to girls and getting together with them and so on. And I just be sitting there, what do you even talk about? What do you even say? It's just like, it was just so alien to me. I just had no clue at all. And yeah, you're right. You know, just a little bit of, there are things that you can learn. This is the thing. People think there aren't, and they think it's all fake or whatever. Some people do, not many people, but some people do. But the fact is, there are things that you can learn just to make the journey that little bit easier. You know, and just have some confidence in yourself as well.
Yeah, and learning things like qualification, like learning how to get a girl, how to screen and actually act like you're qualifying a girl on things more than just her looks. It's not taught. Guys are never taught this by, like, I mean, mainstream society, by their parents or whatever the fuck. They're never taught these little subtle things which make a huge difference in, like, your interactions with women.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, how would you ever know that? The whole concept that you could flip the script, as they say. So you could suddenly, rather than going into a situation and viewing that situation through the frame that she is the prize, you just flip that over and you view the interaction through the frame. No, I am the prize. What is she bringing to the table? Okay, she's pretty. That's nice. But, you know, what else is there about her? And just that simple, it's just a framing technique, but that simple framing technique changes everything. It's really powerful. But who would ever know that? Because that's so anti the whole romantic culture that we've been fed with since we were kids, really. So it's and so I think there are guys out there who do know this stuff naturally. I think there are guys who I suppose, I'm not saying they're born with it, but maybe they're just through a combination of things, they kind of just get it kind of early on. But for many of us, it's something that we have to learn. And if you don't learn it, then I think if I hadn't have learned this stuff, I would be in a very different situation to the one that I'm in now.
Oh yeah, me too. I would not be in my career right now.
Yes.
I would not be in the pornographic industry if I had not learned stuff, hands down. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't have gotten into the swinging scene if I hadn't learned this stuff. Like, there's a whole, like, everything, all these really interesting, unique accomplishments I've achieved over my life and careers I've had are a direct result of having learnt this stuff.
Yeah. Well, there are so many other applications of game outside of the dating marketplace. And it gets said a lot, but it's worth repeating, really, that when you become proficient in going, because basically what game is really is cold approach, for me anyway. It's about walking up to another human being that you've never met before, probably a human being who is, you know, pretty attractive and maybe for that reason slightly intimidating. You know, you think, oh my God, she's so gorgeous, but you go up anyway, you say hello, you introduce yourself, you start a conversation with the risk the whole time that you could get blown out, and you could get quite brutally blown out, you know, particularly if you're going to some of these high-end places that, you know, Myron and Fresh and all that go to. You know, it can be quite brutal out there sometimes. So you're putting yourself in that vulnerable position, and that's quite a hard thing to do. And so once you've done that a few times, and certainly if you've practiced that over a period of time, then almost anything else becomes easier. So like a job interview becomes, suddenly it's like, well, why was I so worried? Or like socializing at a party or networking event or something. All of these things become progressively easier because you've already done the thing that's perhaps one of the hardest things that in many ways, you could argue socially is one of the hardest things that guys are expected to do, which is chat up women that they don't know.
One of the most, or at least one of the most like comfort zone breaking things they do. It's not. Yeah. It's intimidating isn't necessarily the right word, because I mean, or maybe it is because you're intimidated by beauty if you're not surrounded by beauty.
Yeah, yeah.
Jake Gennaro with the 5 Hey Eyes super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Hit that like button. Yes, guys, hit that like button, because I always forget to remind you guys. Troy, spit that game up, my man. Stirling is a stone cold player, about to hit these Sao Paulo streets. Friday is same day lay day. Good luck, man.
Nice, very nice.
Hey, Jake, tell us in the chat, is Sao Paulo or Brazil? Is Brazil kind of open? Are the clubs and bars open? I'm very curious to find out. Let us know.
Well, James Tusk, I don't know if you're familiar with James Tusk. Maybe you are, because I've interviewed him on my channel a few times. Very good-looking guy, English guy. He's a day game dude, got a fantastic day game channel. And he is in Brazil now, as far as I know. I think he's just traveled into Brazil. And he's going to be in Rio de Janeiro for a few weeks. And I think he said he was going to Sao Paulo as well. So my understanding is that pockets of it are open. I think my understanding is that Rio, the carnival's not happening, I think, but they're still expecting to have street parties and stuff like that. But it's still reasonably open, yeah. Apparently people are having a good time down there. So, you know,
well,
make it up. I don't know about Sao Paulo, though. I'd be interested to hear from Jake what the vibe is down there. But it sounds pretty damn good, to be honest.
Because I was having a good time. Morocco was quite nice. I was going to say, I forgot to tell you this. So when I went to Morocco, so of all the places I went to, so you had France and Spain, you had to wear a freaking mask outside. We got stopped by the cops in France. We got stopped by the cops in Spain.
Really? For not having mask?
Yeah, we just played the stupid Englishman card, and they'd let us go. Very easy.
Easy card to play.
I'm sorry, officer. Whilst everyone around us was wearing them. Oh, I didn't know we had to be wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Act the idiot. And they're like, oh, for fuck's sake, this dumbass. Just move on. Move on. They don't care. Like, they can't be bothered. Like, they should be giving us a fine, but because we're foreigners, they've got like, where are they going to send the fine to? What address are they going to send the goddamn fine to? Right. And so we ran into that in France, ran into that in Spain. Portugal, we didn't run into that. Portugal was good. The like restaurants and everything were open. Some like smaller scale bars were open, not nightclubs, but like from what I could tell, but bars were definitely open. People were mingling in the streets and having a drink. It was great.
Nice.
I was like,
nice.
Yes, people are like, this is before Christmas. Like, yes, people are out having a drink. Yes, even though I don't drink, I'm just like, yes, good. People are fucking like, I like seeing that. I like seeing like guys and girls, like men and women hitting on each other. You know, I like seeing strangers hitting on each other.
Just like life happening, you know, it's just like it shouldn't be too much to ask, really, should it? That people can just you know, do basic sort of things that we've done for millennia, you know, like meet in the street. But right. It's
and then Morocco. The funny thing about Morocco was that everything was basically open except clubs weren't open, unfortunately. So the clubs weren't open. They had like an 8 p.m. curfew, which sucked.
Yeah, man.
Everything had to shut by 8 p.m., right? But everything else was open, and no one gave a shit about masks.
Nice.
Even the waiters at restaurants that were supposed to be wearing masks were wearing them around the ends. Like no one was wearing them. They just had them on. A cop came around and was like trying to bribe them, basically.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's one of those countries where like corruption is accessible to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You know,
okay.
Like in the USA, like corruption is only accessible to like people who are are connected and who have a lot of money, right? Country like Morocco, like anybody can bribe a cop.
Anybody can get involved.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
Fun for all,
equal opportunities. Yeah. Whereabouts were you? Did you get to Tangiers at all?
No, we were in Casablanca for a little bit, and then we were in Agadir.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, Agadir was fantastic. I highly recommend it. We were hanging out in, which is where all the rich people hang out, and it was, as far as I was concerned, it was very cheap because I'm paying US dollars, stupidly cheap. We were eating every night for like fucking 10, 20 euros between the two of us. It was nothing, costing us nothing, and we're tipping heavy. And this, you get treated like royalty if you're a white dude.
Really?
Out there.
Really?
Yeah. For some reason, they think they assume, because not many white people go there, so they sort of assume that you're a diplomat of some kind, or like you're someone important if you're a white guy.
Oh, so right. Okay.
Well, we must treat him well, just in case he's connected. If we don't treat him well, we could get in trouble. So you sort of get the red carpet treatment just for being white, which is the first time I've actually experienced white privilege in my life. I was quite enjoying it, to be honest. I could do more with more of that.
Were you tempted to stay out there longer at all? Or did you have to
tempted.
Go anyway?
The only thing, because that's how we actually got back into the USA. So you can't fly from Europe into the USA because all the flights are banned. But you can fly in from Morocco.
So you had to be there like 10 days or something, did you?
We had to be out of Europe for 14 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
In Europe, that's how you get out.
Well, good tip. Yeah, good tip. I've just seen Daniel Borden in the chat. He's saying, just found out that Mexico has closed its borders. Sad. That is pretty sad, actually, because Mexico was looking, if that's true, because Mexico was also looking like another potential escape route because, well, my understanding was, I mean, I know a couple of people who've gone over there, James Tusk being one of them, before he went to Brazil. And my understanding was it was pretty straightforward. You know, you didn't even need a test to get in, which is pretty nuts. I wonder if they've closed it for people getting out as well as for going in. Be interesting to find out.
I know some people who are over there right now. I think Ed Latimer went there on holiday recently as well. There's a few people who went out there.
Really? I'm really curious to go to Tulum. People are saying Tulum is supposed to be awesome. Like,
I've had a lot of people recommending Mexico as the potential like second like hub for this. Because here's the thing, I'm kind of looking for like a second hub somewhere in the world to set up, like one being in America and having a second location, because I don't want to go back to Australia. It's very, very locked downy. And I kind of like the idea of somewhere else in South America or somewhere in Europe, preferably with a bit more freedom. But quickly jump on Jake Janero's $5 Hey super chat here. Nightclubs close at 10 p.m. But there are secret parties you can get invited to. There are bars for dates, however, and day game is going strong. So there you go.
Hallelujah. That sounds fantastic.
Hallelujah. People can get laid again, Troy. What a remarkable thing.
Well, it's sort of, I was just reading an article yesterday in The Guardian of all things, but it's sort of been illegal, strictly speaking, in the UK to get laid for about a year now. And actually there's this human rights barrister who's on Twitter who goes through a lot of as the new laws come into play in Britain, he goes through them and he sort of points out things where they're kind of overstepping the mark. But apparently, strictly speaking, because of, there's all these things about your bubble and the people that you can see one other household under certain circumstances and all this kind of stuff. But fundamentally, what it all comes down to is really you can't get laid. But of course, people are doing it anyway, but they're doing it secretly, like under wraps, as it were. And apparently some people were, obviously it's a bit chilly now, but people were using the parks and all this kind of stuff to get jiggy with it. So
you in the park.
Apparently, yeah. So you can't hold down the human spirit.
You're not going to beat human nature. Like, you can try and fight human nature all you want, but like dudes are gonna want to fuck, and they're gonna try and lure women out in one way, shape, or form.
Exactly. I mean, and to be honest, I think I'm sure there are many people who are just ignoring the rules anyway, because it's a very hard thing to police, really, unless you stop everybody in the street and ask them where they're going, which is just not practical. So I'm sure, my understanding is I think under the surface there's a lot going on at the moment, but obviously it has to be kept under wraps. But it's kind of a crazy situation. I mean, what kind of a world are we, you would never have imagined that we will be in this situation where getting off with somebody has basically been criminalized.
It's almost like a form of Puritanism.
Yeah.
In a way. But it's like without directly being Puritan. Because if you were living in a Puritan society, they'd be like, no sex allowed, no sex before marriage, like we condemn and shame this stuff. Rather than actually shaming it, they're just making it impossible for you to do it.
Well, that's true. That is true. And people have made the point, actually, there is a somewhat puritanical element to this stuff in the UK, because apparently there's been a few murmurs about alcohol. They're starting to crack down on alcohol now in terms of, they don't really want people drinking. So now it was, I think there are certain restrictions on who can sell alcohol and at what times and things like this. And it's a bit like, well, hang on a minute, come on. So there's that. But the other thing was, this article was making the point that it's very geared towards people who are, if you're married or you're in a stable relationship or something, okay, fine. Then you're okay. But what about all these other people who are just dating, or they haven't met anybody yet, or they're, and it's almost like penalizing them. So all the married, good high quality family people are all looked after. But if you're like, anybody who's in any other sort of situation, they've been left out in the cold. So you're right. There is a sort of puritanical underside to this.
Yeah, they're neglecting to consider degenerates like us, Troy, who like to sleep around.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, surely it's a human right. Surely.
Please think of the degenerates.
Exactly.
Think of us.
Exactly. It's been over a year since a bloody decent fetish party in the UK now. I mean, how is that allowed? How is that conceivable?
I haven't been to an orgy in a year. God damn it.
Exactly. There must be somewhere where these things are happening, though. I mean, apparently Albania is open. Maybe there's some Albanian underground sex clubs.
Huh. I did not know that. One of the things I was going to say was, I think it slipped my mind. I was going to talk about Morocco, and you talk about the drinking and alcohol and stuff. Well, first of all, the probably the worst country in the world to try and ban alcohol is the UK. You're never going to stop people from drinking in the UK, or you wouldn't get that. Wouldn't fly in Australia either. Not a chance are you stopping people from drinking in either of those countries. You could try, you can sure as hell try, but you're going to be met with some very violent force, I imagine, opposing that. But one of the things they did in Morocco was, so they had this 8 p.m. curfew in place, right?
Okay.
And restaurants are not allowed to open. Only cafes were allowed to open. Oh, really? So that was the specific difference. And the reason they did it, because it's a Muslim country, right?
Yeah,
Morocco.
Yeah.
But they do sell alcohol, and a lot of Moroccans do drink alcohol. So there's still this, you still, can take a girl out on a date and get some drinks, right? Now, the policy behind this curfew was, we're going to stop restaurants from being open because restaurants sell alcohol, and we people gathering in groups and drinking alcohol and spreading the virus or whatever.
Yeah.
So what the consequence of that, and the other little policy they had was, they can't serve food dinner. They can't serve dinner in cafes.
Right. Okay.
Dinner taken away. You can sell it and they can take it away, but they can't in the restaurant, right? But they didn't make any rules around desserts. So every fucking cafe in Morocco is packed with people eating cake. In big family group, just huge gatherings of families just sitting there eating dessert and then ordering takeaway shawarma. Nice. It's the stupidest little fuck, because you can't. Anytime you try to regulate human behavior, it'd be there's always unintended consequences
Yeah.
these kind of regulations, and that was one of my favorite ones to see. Like, I part of me kind of like seeing the stupid of all these little different like rules and regulations they're putting in place everywhere, and the different consequences. And that was one of my favorite consequences, was just seeing everyone packing cafes, eating cake in large groups, and then taking their dinner home.
Yeah.
Basically having diverse, having their dessert first, and then having their main meal afterwards as they walk home.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, no, it's interesting. Like you say, people will always. It's like water, isn't it? Water will always. Water will always find a way. You know, you pour it. It's always going to find the cracks, and that's actually been the case over here. So whatever they bring in, people will always. They'll follow it to the letter of the law, but they'll always find the ways around it. And actually, to be honest, at the moment, I mean, everyone's saying, "Oh, London lockdown and stuff like that," but it's really busy out. There's loads of people around. It's
Really?
not like the lockdown last year, and it's definitely. And I'm glad of this. You know, it's definitely a little bit freer and easier. I mean, you've got the cafes. You can get takeout coffees. There's loads of people walking around. It's like it's the atmosphere is better than it was last year, even though probably the situation reportedly the situation is worse. But it's I don't know, man. I mean, people, like you say, people are always just going to find those not even loopholes. They're just going to find the way because fundamentally, here's the thing: whether you're pro lockdown, anti lockdown, whatever you're feeling on the virus, you know, we are being asked to behave in a way which is fundamentally unnatural and for long periods of time, and it's never been done before. It's never been done before on this scale. So whether you're against it because, you know, for whatever reason, or whether you think, okay, fair enough, they've got to do something. Either way, we've all got to acknowledge they're trying to restrict human behavior in a way that just it's very, very unnatural and like I say, is unprecedented. So you know, and like you say, I just don't think it's really possible. I don't think it's really possible over the long term.
Well, they've
not completely
done a pretty good job of it so far, unfortunately. I'm actually disappointed with how successful it's been, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you know, it's all of the people basically crying out for it. I was going, no, we should lock down harder. No, why don't you know?
And it's all these people. It's all these people you said before who are not degenerate like us. All the ones that are happily, or maybe not so happily, but all the ones that are in relationships. They're like, oh, I don't need to go out. I'm in the missus and watch Netflix. It's all those bastards because they're neglecting the fact that we want to go out and get some pussy.
Exactly. And what's wrong with that, guys? Come on, just have a heart. Think about us. You know, we are the real victims in all of this.
We need to get a bit of strange here and there.
Exactly.
Exactly. Who the real victims are. The real victims of this whole thing are young women. Because they've just had an entire, because beauty is a depreciating asset. And young, especially young women who just turned 18, right? Last year, who would have been spending going out to nightclubs and bars and socializing and taking advantage of their beauty, leveraging their beauty to network, get connected to high value men, whatever it might be. That opportunity disappeared. And they can never get that year back. They can never regain that year of beauty. They're only going to get. So they actually just missed out. And imagine, it's like, what would be the equivalent of that for a man? Like, I'm just trying to think what would be an equivalent of just missing an entire. For a guy, it'd be like, okay, like you miss out on the years from 30 to 35. Bang, gone. They just disappear. You know, because that's when most dudes tend to sort of hit their stride and really start making money and stuff, right? So I guess that would kind of be the male equivalent. Yeah,
exactly. It would have to be quite a big chunk of time, wouldn't it? Like you say, it would have to be sort of 35 to 40 or maybe even to 45. It would almost have to be losing a decade or something. And even then, you know, the guy could still, I mean, it wouldn't be
come back.
I mean, you know, exactly. Grow old disgracefully. But that's a very good point. And again, in a mainstream article that I was reading, they talked about this, and some women were saying, look, I mean, you know, particularly if you imagine a woman who's in her maybe, I don't know, later 20s, early 30s or something like that, and she's saying, look, time is time's getting on here.
Mhm.
You know, I want to move forward with things, and that's basically a year gone, a year that's been taken out of the game, which is terrible, really, for anybody.
And then another way of looking at it is women who've sort of like post-wall women who would have spent last year locking a guy down to get pregnant with, right? And now they're older. It's another year where it's harder. Like it's a year that they haven't found a partner, and then when they do eventually someone, it's going to be another, like, they're going to be older, so it's going to be harder for them to get. And there's, like, again, more knock-on ramifications of that as well. So it's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, and I really feel for any dude who is like an 18, 19, 20-year-old guy.
Yeah.
During the last year and a half. It's like, man, if you didn't have any experience with, like, cold approach pickup, if you didn't have any experience with chicks, you are behind the 8 ball, because you couldn't have gone out and gotten some cold approach experience, because cold approach experience, like, talk about, like, you can have, like, online game and text game and Instagram game and stuff like that. Like, you can write a good Tinder profile and you can be decent at texting and stuff, right? But to actually seal the deal and take a girl from meet up with a girl, but then to actually, like, in person to seduce her and then take her home requires real life, in, like, face-to-face experience, which you get from doing cold approach pickup. You don't, like, especially if you're more of an awkward guy and you've never done it before. Yeah, you could have tell Instagram game or text or a Tinder game or whatever, but then if you're awkward as hell in person, you ain't getting laid. So dudes who have had to rely on that for the last year are kind of, like, behind the 8 ball from guys like you or me.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you've got that more experience, let's say, then even if you're in a situation where you're in a lockdown city or a lockdown country, even then you can probably make something happen. Or even if it's off Tinder, or, so Tinder, for example, you can meet her on Tinder, and then you probably know what to do to escalate that successfully. Whereas if you are the 18-year-old who has no experience, or the 21-year-old or whatever who has no experience, then it's just such a mountain to climb under these circumstances. Because, like you say, you need a lot of run room, I think is the word. You need some runway in order to go out there, try this stuff, mess it up, get blown out, have some embarrassing things happen, start to get it right before you get to a position where you're really comfortable with it. And you're right. I mean, this is taking, a year or so out of people's lives in order to do that. Although, I mean, to be fair, I mean, the UK was kind of open for several months over the summer. So it wasn't horrendous. I mean, the summer was great. It was almost back to normal. But thinking back, actually, really, it was only about 4 months, to be honest, when things were sort of normal, which is, like, out of a year is sort of horrendous, really. Like, we got a third of a year. Oh, well, good job.
At least it was the sunny part of the year for you guys.
True.
You get the 4 days of the year when you have sunlight, you managed to get those free.
Yeah, exactly.
Real quick plug, by the way, for my so for those of you who watch my channel regularly, you might notice that I've my travel vlogs have stopped being posted. That's because I've moved them to a completely different channel.
Are you doing a second channel?
I've done a second channel. I've just dropped that channel link in the chat right now. So if you want to keep up to date with my travels, we've been up to quite a few shenanigans. They are going to be all the previous episodes are on there right now already, and new episodes are going to be dropped there. Check out that. It's also my backup YouTube channel, just in case something goes wrong. YouTube decides they don't like me. They don't like what I'm teaching. I'm speaking too much truth. I'm talking about sex too much, whatever it might be. That is also going to be a backup channel in a worst case scenario. So make sure you subscribe to that as well, and you can check out my weekly vlog, my weekly, like, behind the scenes adventures on there, and see what my life is actually like and all the stupid shit I get up to over there. So awesome, follow that stuff. And while you hit the freaking like button.
Yeah, hit that damn like button, guys.
Should throw some
who have you been traveling with?
I've been traveling with my buddy Tom Umar Hunter. He's I've known the guy for like 10 years, and we actually met through the whole pickup community Oddly enough.
Oh, did you? Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
oddly enough, yeah. We've been best mates for like the last 10 years, and we've basically traveled. Between the two of us, we've traveled to a lot of different countries together. He used to live in Chile. He came and lived with me in Australia. We've been to Lithuania together.
Nice.
We've been to Brazil together. Been to a few places, and now this last couple of months we've been bounced around together, running into the police everywhere we go.
Was it a deliberate strategy then? Did you think, oh, sod this, let's just go and have some fun and travel around some cool places during this that are sort of open? Was that what it was, or was it? Because originally you were going to come to England, weren't you? Or you did come to London for a bit, but
then I got out before it closed the door. The plan was originally was twofold. It was to try to find a place where I might be able to set up a second home, like a backup plan place, and that is still kind of the plan. That's why I'm going back again in a couple of weeks to see some more of Eastern Europe. We quite like Portugal and Morocco are pretty high up on our list of places that are not too bad. But we're going to check out some of Eastern Europe and see what that's like. The other part, the other motivation was purely just to do it because people said we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And as soon as someone tells me I can't do something, Troy, I'm like, well, now I've got to do it.
I admire that spirit. That's actually kind of similar to what the Tates are flexing about, isn't it? Andrew Tate's always banging on about, I've been to 37 countries during this lockdown. What about you, you pussy? Sorry. Sorry, there goes the monetization.
I don't get monetized when I'm on live stream anyway, mate. You're good.
Oh, okay, fine. He kicks in with all that kind of. But I see what he means. It's a good point because it's like like we're preaching, freedom and independence and all of these kinds of things. And I mean, like that. This is the ultimate way of demonstrating that, really, isn't it?
No, I completely agree, and that's kind of also what I was trying to do, like set an example. Because everyone was like afraid. Everyone was sort of saying, "Oh, I can't. Oh, I'm stuck. I can't go anywhere. I can't travel." Like, well really? Or is that just in your mind? Because I'm gonna do it. And if I can do it, then you can do it. I mean, obviously it depends upon your passport, sure, but you don't have to go to the same places. You can go to different places with a different passport.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we found a way. No matter what we were doing, we found a way. I actually met the Tates.
Oh, did you? Whereabouts?
In Vegas. I went out and met them with the Tates.
Oh, did you meet them in Vegas? How was it?
Yeah, great. They're great guys. Really solid dudes. I speak very, very highly of them, and of their and of the community of guys they put together, the war room community, because it was like a war room event. That they had in Vegas. Yeah, and they invited me. They invited me to like the cocktail bar where they had like a meetup with some of the war room guys.
Oh, that's cool. You didn't do any content. You didn't do any content from over there, I don't think, did you?
I didn't do any what? Sorry.
You didn't put any content or anything from that, I don't think, did you?
No. I didn't. They have a photographer who was taking photos at the event, so I do have photographic evidence that I was there, but I didn't take a goddamn photo. It was I only got a photo with Andrew. I didn't get a Tristan at all, which I'm kind of annoyed about. So I missed a golden opportunity. So I might when I go back to Europe, I might see if I can actually catch up with them in Romania, and maybe even meet up with Joe Lambton while I'm out there. We'll see.
Well, Joe Lampton's an interesting guy. I mean, I've met both of them, and they're both great guys. I met them separately. I met Andrew. I did an interview with him in London a while back, a year or so, probably a couple of years ago. And then I met Tristan when he was in London last year. And I mean, they're both great guys. I do like Tristan. I got on really well with Tristan, actually. He's a very cerebral sort of a dude, not that Andrew isn't as well, of course, but Tristan's a really interesting guy. So they're I mean, people have.
Oh, you dropped that a little bit there, Troy.
There.
Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
We're back. Yeah.
Yep, we're all back. We're good. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, say what you will about. Real quickly, I'm going to plug some more of Troy's products in the chat here. That is his Gumload link. Check it out. People say what you will about the Tates. Like, I understand there's a lot of people that there's friends of ours who might have problems with them. And a lot that's because they're very, very similar to them. You might know the people I'm talking about. And I respect both of them. I respect our mutual friends, and I respect the Tates as much. And I can see the similarities between these guys. I can see like that they're out there trying to teach dudes the right stuff.
Yes.
They're living what they preach, which I think is a very important thing. Because there's a lot of people on Twitter, especially, who are hiding behind Avatar, who are fronting, who are just they're preaching one thing and their life is a completely different thing.
Yes,
you know? And there needs to be some degree of authenticity, and this is something I touched on with Aaron Clary when I had Aaron Clary on here last week. And it's this idea of like aesthetics. This idea of aesthetics, right? Because you're a vampire. You're like what? You're in your 50s?
No, not quite. I'm still hanging in there. I'm in my 40s, but
okay, 40s.
Got a little way to go.
Well, you still look like you're still a freaking vampire. But so you and Aaron Clary are like Gen X, right? And there's this thing like millennials and Gen Z, and right to in order to communicate to them, and in order to influence them, you have to sell them with your brand. And Ryan Stone touched on this. He actually touched on this in the Rule Zero presentation he gave last year at our Rule Zero Lives conference. I thought his presentation was one of the most sort of forward-thinking ones of all the presentations, because he touched on the idea of like dating in this next decade is going to be about branding yourself.
Yes, interesting. Yeah.
And I also think that a lot of getting the kind of messages we want to get across, like call it like red pill, call it manosphere, call it dating, whatever you want to call it, right? Basically, like trying to help, whatever it is, like trying to help men be better with women and life in general. Getting younger men to pick up on this message is going to be dependent on our ability to brand properly. And I was mentioning this to Aaron Clary specifically because he was having a bit of frustration. He's been writing books for 10 years, and his books are really, really good because I read them, but he doesn't get the attention that other people get. And he's been trying to help people for so long in so many different ways, telling them the correct information, but he gets a bit frustrated that not many people listen. And I was saying to him, and I'd say the same too, is like, you guys live cool lives, but you don't advertise that enough.
Yeah,
you don't put that life out there enough. Fine. Yeah. For example, for someone like, I understand for someone like, say, Rolo, for example, like he wants to keep a bit of privacy. That makes sense. He's got a family. That makes total sense. Like, I understand, and particularly with Rolo, because he's been doxxed before.
Yes,
that there's the reluctance to do anything, to put anything out there, because you want to keep your family safe. I totally understand that. But with someone like, say, someone like you or someone like Aaron Clary, it's like, well, you're living like a bachelor lifestyle and you do cool shit.
Yes.
And so the part of the thing that we don't capitalize enough on is showcasing that.
Yeah.
Showcasing the cool aspects of your life that a younger man can look up to and be like, damn, I want to be like that. I want to live that kind of life. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. And I would say for myself, it's something that I probably it's something I need to do more of, and it's something I intend to do more of as we go forward into this year. It's like the old what's the guy's name? Well, I mean, building a personal brand, it's basically just about sharing everything, isn't it? Sharing as much as you. Gary Vaynerchuk, the Gary Vaynerchuk idea. It's like, that guy, the marketing guy, and he's like, you should be on Snapchat, you should be on Instagram stories, 6 times a day, showing different things, blah, blah, blah. And it's absolutely right. It's absolutely right, because people buy into the lifestyle, don't they? And no, I totally agree with you. I'm totally on board with that.
Because it's not, for sure. I mean, I don't necessarily think you need to be posting like 6 times a day or whatever, but it's because for a perfect example, like Aaron Clary sells people what they need, he tells them what they want, right? He sells them like dry, if you want to be honest, like dry financial advice. Like, here's how you don't go broke. Like, here's what you should. Here's how to set your life up. Here, like, it's good information, but it's not like exciting information, right? So we got to start getting these guys in the, especially younger guys. If we want to help dudes, because right now a lot of guys find this side of the internet after fucked up. After they've had some kind of a big emotional traumatic event in their life, or like after a bad breakup, after a divorce, whatever it might be. Like, that's how they sort of stumble across guys like Rolo or you or John or Richard or whatever.
Yes.
And it would be nice if we could get in front of some like 16-year-old dudes.
Yes.
And beat them to the past. Like, get to them before it's too late, before the school system has indoctrinated them with bullshit, before Disney has indoctrinated them with bullshit, and actually sort of set them on the right path. Save. Think of how many like years of torment we could save if we just get in front of a few younger men.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and yeah, 100%. It is about the branding. It is about showcasing life as well. I do agree with that, and yeah, definitely. Like I say, it's something that I need to really do a bit more of. So I'll be doing that. Hoping to do that going forward. But
and
it's funny, actually,
we should especially showcase the fact that we're complete degenerates, Troy.
Exactly. Well, I've always wanted to film inside some of these clubs. I mean, unfortunately, they're really funny about cameras in there, but it'd be great just to be like holding up the like live streaming it while you're sort of engaged in whatever with some cute young thing. But it's funny, actually, Aaron should say that, because I think the thing about Aaron, though, is that he is really loved by his audience, and certainly when I do videos with him, I mean, I get loads of, secondly to you, because when I did that video with you, we got 50,000 views, which is the biggest my channel's ever done. But I mean, so aside from that, I mean, actually the Aarons they get really decent views, because I think people really like him. But yeah, no, I take on board what you're saying, and I think he was, he's obviously. He was looking at Rich Cooper's book and all this kind of thing, but I mean, he's people. He speaks to a lot of people. People buy into him for sure.
Yeah. I'm not trying to shit on Aaron here.
Oh no, of course,
yeah. I'll do that to his face rather than like. But it was just something that came up. Like, I just saw it happen. Like, 'cause I interviewed him, and then he went on to John MLD's Dude Party show the next day, and he seemed a bit frustrated.
Okay.
So what was sort of in my head for a while. I'm like, he's got a point. He's got a reason to be sort of frustrated.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why. That's the reason why I like what the Tates are doing. Because it's also the reason why I like what John MLD is doing. Is because they're presenting a lifestyle that younger men want to emulate.
Well, that's true. And I mean, something that's occurred to me over the last sort of 6 months or so is maybe taking it a little bit away from the live streaming format, just sitting there live streaming from a room every day. Because as much as I enjoy doing it, and it's great, and you get to interact with the people watching and so on, it wasn't originally what I wanted to do. I mean, I was looking at people like Tom Serrero. I was looking at people like, James Tusk had sort of started out at that time. And even people like RSD. And I mean, they were basically just traveling all over the world and making videos from cool places. And it wasn't necessarily a 2-hour live stream. It was like a 10-minute video shot from a different place. So you're giving the information, but you're also showcasing the lifestyle as well. And, now there's this fashion for doing the live streams that we all do, and I think it's great. But I do sort of think maybe at some point I might change things up a little bit and see if a different approach can work as well. But I mean, you've done it really well, because you live stream, but you're just carrying the gear around with you, aren't you? So you can set up the live stream from wherever you are. Yeah,
it's. I actually had to replace this wood that can my mic cord, actually, like the one I was traveling with was busted. It was it stopped working in the middle of like live streams, but now I've replaced it, so it's back. Obviously, it is working now, but that's the risk. Like, and unfortunately, every time I fucking catch a flight, I'm getting smacked with the $100 heavy baggage fee. because this shit isn't light. But that is but I'm happy to pay that for the ability to do this wherever I go.
Yeah, the flexibility,
and kind of like report from the ground, shall we say?
Yes, exactly.
The thing I'm a little bit annoyed about is that it's not that things aren't open and I can't run around doing pickup and going to clubs and stuff. Because that would be great if I could. If everywhere I've been, I could be like, all right, here's what French girls are like. Here's what Spanish girls are like. Right now, I can only really talk about Portuguese and Moroccan girls. Great. Moroccan girls are fantastic, by the way, Troy. I highly recommend.
I dated one in Paris.
Oh, you lucky bastard! There you go. This
romantic memories.
And they're very feminine, very eager to please, gorgeous. I might be sold. Problem is the Moroccan passport is shit. You can't go anywhere on a Moroccan passport. Getting them out of the country is a hard part.
Well, maybe that's an advantage. You know, when you've had enough, you just leave the country, and then you're good to go.
I suppose there's that. It's more like I'm thinking more along the lines of like, oh, okay, if I want to build my harem, I want them all the girls to be in one place, you know, and that place might be somewhere other than Morocco. So if I want to get a Moroccan girl or two, I've got to have the ability to sort of import her into mainland Europe or into South America or into America, wherever it might be.
Yeah, you've got to think about the logistics, haven't you?
Yeah, look, the struggles of trying to build a 6-woman family.
Are you going to document this whole thing online?
Of course, mate. Here's the thing. Like, I don't do things that are normal. I deliberately do shit that people say can't be done, and then hence why I will be documenting and recording the whole goddamn thing. Because if I can if I can figure out, because we know a couple of guys who have, you know, basically harems.
Yes.
To a degree. If I can repeat the process, then I can show other guys how to do it. Like if I can do it anyway, like I said, people think they can't do this shit I do. I'm a fucking nerd from country Western Australia. I am not some like physical anomaly or like genius. I am literally a son of a mechanic from but nowhere, Australia. That's who Stirling Cooper is. You know, and if I can do this shit, then anyone can do this shit. That's kind of what I want guys to know. I want guys to really understand that. Because
you can design your own life. You can create your own life. You can create your dream life. That's the thing, isn't it?
That's it, man. Because like people see the porn thing and they think, oh, I could never do what he does. I could never be what he is. Like, well, yes, you can. You really, and that's it. And that's my definition of a high value man. Because people sort of throw they try to define a high value man in different ways. And for me, it always comes back to the ability to live of your own design.
Exactly.
You give me any criteria that someone might use to describe a person as high value, right? So like physically fit, fight, they can hunt, they can make money, they can attract women, they can network. All of these things you could classify as the ability to live a life of your own design.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, money probably figures slightly lower on the list. Not lower on the list, but it's like money's not necessarily, because people think, oh, so it's all about, I've got to be a G, I've got to have 15 Lambos and all the rest of it. But it's not even that. Like, I would rather be relatively poor, but have freedom and to be able to design my life in the way that I want, than to be a very well-paid CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Do you know what I mean?
That's true. And there is a trade-off there with like having high income, but then having like time flexibility, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody can create a location independent business. It's just not possible. Not everyone would. because not everyone either has a skill set or not everyone has something to sell that is location independent, right? But everybody can create a location dependent, time dependent 6-figure business. That is definitely doable for everybody. But that requires you to be in one spot and hustle and work. I mean, a good example would be someone like, are you familiar with Cultibra on Twitter?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So like him and his business partner, I can't remember I can't remember the name of his business partner off the top of my head. But the two of them built like a brand around, I think it was around, if I'm remembering it correctly, it was around like Camelback, like hydration packs, but for like music festivals.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
I think that was their brand. I'm probably butchering this if Culty is watching this at all. Anyway, they turned that into like a couple $1 million brand in the space of like a year between the two of them. But it's a very location dependent thing. They have a warehouse. They're in California. That is their location. Are they now financially wealthy? Hell yes. Does Colty have a really cool life? Yeah. You follow his Instagram. He does some really cool shit. Like he's skiing all the time. He's riding his Jeep. He's shooting guns. He's having a fucking great time. Yeah. Does he travel as much as me? No. But does he have more money than me? Fuck yes, he does. Does he do really cool shit? Absolutely, he does. So it comes down like because some guys are travelers and some guys aren't. Like I don't know if it's like the English Australian bloodline. There's something in us, Troy, that makes us want to like explore the world. You know, that colonizer blood.
Intimately.
It's got to do with being a colonizer. We have to bounce around and see shit.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of both, right? Because like being completely honest, I haven't traveled in the last few years as much as I've had the opportunity to. Because to be honest, like I don't have to be sitting here in London right now. I could be anywhere with an internet connection, like you know. Yeah. And people are sometimes, and you know, it's not that I've traveled a lot in the last few years, but I haven't been on the road continuously, and I kind of could have been really, and maybe now after everything that's happened, I'm sort of thinking, oh damn, maybe I should have a little bit more, but you know, like there are pluses and minuses. I mean, like I'm in London. I mean, like I would like to get out of London maybe in the next month or so and be somewhere else for a while for obvious reasons. But, you know, at the same time, you know, there are, you know, I've got a lot of friends here. I've got, you know, it's kind of convenient for certain work things. There are sort of other reasons. So you've got to sort of balance up between the two. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure in my head, I think, oh, you just love to be on the road the whole time and blah, blah, blah. And who knows, maybe I will give that a go for a period of time. But also there is some value, particularly when you're building something, there is some value to being in a single location for a bit, I think, you know? So you got to sort of like weigh them up. Yeah, absolutely. And like in the last 2 years or whatever, I've been in Los Angeles building my career. And then in the last year, I was in Los Angeles building my online business, right? And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was bounced. Now, oddly enough, the other thing that really, really helped me in the last 2 months while I've been traveling, I've gotten a lot of work done, a lot of really good work. Oh, while you were traveling? Yeah, like a lot of like really important behind the scenes work, and a large part of my productivity, because I was really struggling like. During the first 2 weeks of traveling with my friend, I was because he works online. He works. He's like a programmer. He's a coder, right? So he can work. He works on his laptop from anywhere in the world. Yeah, he's been doing that for years. That's kind of how he's been living for like forever. And the first 2 weeks I was traveling with him, right, it was very hard for me to get into a flow of work because I've just spent the last year in my apartment in Los Angeles with my desk set up with my routine and like sit down, get into work that way. Right. So when you're in a new environment and moving every 2 or 3 days, it was disrupting my workflow. Right. But after 2 weeks, I got into the flow again.
of
wow, okay,
it didn't matter where I was able to get some shit done. And the really big thing for me was being around somebody else who is a hard worker.
okay,
He was like the way the last 2 months worked. It was like we find an Airbnb, we stay in a certain town for 3 or 4 days, and then we move to another town and then get an Airbnb for like 3 or 4 days.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we walk into the unpack our bags, we find we set up a workstation where we put our laptops, and bam, that's where we're working. And it's like when I'm sitting opposite a guy who is sitting there for 8 hours a day doing like he basically has like a day job. He has to sit there for 8 hours a day, and he's a hard worker. I'm like, well, I'm not going to fucking do nothing. I feel like a lazy bastard if I'm not working. So it was a really interesting, like, forced productivity thing to be a friend who isn't even trying to hold me accountable. Just by being around him, he's holding me accountable, and it's forcing me to do more work. So that kind of like what I thought would be an unproductive time traveling actually turned out to be a very, very productive thing, purely because I was with another guy who was like kind of like accidentally holding me accountable by being a very productive man himself.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I believe it's eminently doable. I just think it's something you've got to slot into. But I also feel like I'm in a better position now, actually, because I'm sort of set up. You know, I've got my processes set up. I kind of know what I'm doing. So if I did just rock up somewhere and then move 5 days later and whatever, it's kind of like I'm in the flow. I know the kind of like I'm quite structured in terms of what I do. So I think it would be better for me. I think maybe a year or so ago, or a couple of years ago, it would have been harder because when you're still feeling your way in terms of, well, what content am I doing, when, you know, and all the rest of it. So, So yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking at, because I think it's important to show people that sort of, like you said, like the kind of lifestyle that is possible. You know, I mean, by the way, I've got video, you know, I've got infields available on my Gumroad link that you've got. So if you want to, you know, I've got video footage of me going and talking to women in real life. You know, it's like amazing. You know, can you imagine? Like, you know, so
what?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I mean, if you guys want to see that, go to Stirling's Gumroad link, and there's a product on there called Renegade Dating Infield, which will show you how to approach a woman in real life and have a conversation with her and get a phone number, or maybe go for a coffee with her, you know. So I do like to show this stuff, but I think it's more of the lifestyle stuff, isn't it? It's more of like the behind the scenes kind of stuff that I think is valuable. I'm
a big proponent of inspiring guys.
You
know, having said that, though, motivation is fleeting. Like, you don't want to rely on discipline, and habits are the thing that will actually cause you to succeed in life. Motivation is only ever going to disappear. But it can help guys to sort of make a change in their life, I think. Get a start, help them start somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was really inspired by guys on YouTube, you know, by people's YouTube channels and stuff like that. And, you know, and I mean, the 4-hour work week as well by Tim Ferriss, obviously is probably a little bit dated now, but that was I suppose the classic that got a lot of people onto this idea of
like
digital nomadism, really.
Yeah. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. I've just got a super chat here from Shozan Hanmar. Good to see you again, mate. I haven't seen you in the chat for a while. $5 super chat. If men can be successful, why do so many, some would say most, fail in either job, obviously, etc.? Could be any area. Example: 20% athletes, 80% watching. It's a good question. I think it's because this actually ties into what I was going to say about the 4-hour work week, oddly enough. So when I was first introduced to the 4-hour work week, I fell in love with the book and the idea of like, oh, I can work 4 hours and then spend the rest of my time traveling. Yeah. It's a very good idea. And then I went to an entrepreneurship camp in Lithuania, of all places.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I went to an entrepreneurship conference in Lithuania. It was run by these 4 American self-made millionaires. And what they did was they just held this. They invited 100 young people from under the age of 25. Are they 25? Under the age of 30. They invited 100 people under the age of 30 from around the world. You had to sort of put in a video application, and they vetted you. if you had what they were looking for, they would you flew yourself out to Lithuania, and they would put you up for a week in this lakeside cabin in the middle of Lithuania, and they mentored us for like a week straight. And people would pay these, like Craig Ballantyne was one of the guys there. I don't know if you've heard of Craig Ballantyne.
The Scottish guy?
No, he's American. He's an American guy.
Oh, okay, sorry. I think it's someone else.
He's a multimillionaire, like does a lot of like productivity stuff online. Anyway, he's one of these 4 guys, and people pay thousands of dollars for a weekend with him.
Yeah.
And we got access to him and 3 other dudes for a whole week for free.
Cool.
This is a very, very unique experience. And they were doing it for several. I don't know if they keep still doing it, but for several years. Anyway, one of the big things they taught us at that conference, one of the big chips on his shoulder, that the main Eamon Black was the guy who ran the conference, and he was like, "I hate the 4-hour work week, and here's why: because it stops people from putting in the work." And I think Rich Cooper would probably agree with this. It sells you the dream that you don't have to actually bust your ass, which you do. And this, I believe, Shozan, is why any man can be successful, but most of them won't, because most of them will not put in the fucking work. It actually takes work. And when I say work, I mean things you don't want to be doing. Things that are uncomfortable, things that you are putting off, things that you procrastinate on. The person who does that shit is the one that actually makes progress and actually succeeds. And the guy who is willing to fail and pick himself up again and then keep trying and keep failing until he succeeds. Because you will fail. I've had multiple businesses that did not work. And I failed. I made big mistakes. And I said, fuck it, I'll keep trying. And eventually I found something that worked for me. But you have to have the ability to put actual work in, and you have to have the ability to fail again and again.
Yeah.
I'd say that. What do you think in regards to Serjan's question, Troy?
I would agree. I think it's, you know, what's the proportions? It's sort of 90% perspiration. You know, you've got to get your hands dirty. You've got to work hard and all of that kind of stuff that we talk about. I think as well, just to add to what you said, I think the important thing underneath even that is the desire. Like, how badly do you actually want it? I did a tweet about this today, which didn't perform as well as I'd hoped, actually. Thank you very much, Twitter. But no, I think its desire is really important. Because first of all, yes, you've got to put the work in, but how do you get to that? Well, you've got to really want the thing that you are trying to get. And this is true in the dating sphere. It's equally, I believe, true in terms of business and any big endeavor, really. You've got to really bloody want it. So how do you really want it? Well, sometimes guys will come to me and they'll say, well, listen, I want to get my dating life sorted out, but, you know, I can't really be bothered. And it's like, oh, how do I get the motivation to go out and speak to these girls? And it's kind of like, well, perhaps you need to look at your testosterone. Maybe there's something like that. Maybe you've got some sort of depression or whatever. Maybe it's about nutrition. There's all these different things that you could look at. But fundamentally for me, it just it was just natural. When I was, you know, in my early 20s, whatever, I just really wanted to meet as many girls as possible. You know, I was full of testosterone. I was full of like those raging hormones and all the rest of it. And it was just like, sod it, I'm just going to do whatever it takes. And if that meant getting rejected by the entire club or looking like an idiot or whatever, I didn't care. I was just going to do it. And I was more successful than other guys around me at that time, you know, and this was before I got into you know, giving advice about this stuff as a job or anything. But I could see that I was more successful than other guys around me. And there were guys who were better looking. There were guys who were taller. There were guys who probably had better abs, richer, you know, all of these different things. And yet my results overall were better. And you sort of think, well, why is that? How would that be the case? And the only thing I will put it down to is actually wanting the result enough that you're going to do pretty much anything to get there.
Yes. One might say you were obsessed with it.
Exactly. And like, I wouldn't say that it's healthy to be obsessed. Well, I mean, if I could have my time again, I'd do more of a rich kid type approach, because I don't think it's really healthy to be obsessed with, trying to meet women and putting everything into that, but whatever. I mean, everyone's got their own path, right? But you can turn that drive then to other things, like, okay, well, dating women, that's one part of your life, but equally your career, your finances, your business, that's another part of your life, and you can sort of trick yourself as well. I think, like a classic thing with women, if you don't have the motivation to go out and meet women, well, what's an obvious thing to do? Reduce your pornography. I don't want to say stop watching it because it's a fine art form, as I think that.
I'll tell you guys, stop watching it. Stop watching it. I'll tell them right now.
You probably want to reduce it. You probably want to reduce it down. I'm not a no fap dude by any means. I'm not. I think it's kind of weird the fact how guys go on about this stuff on Twitter and like boast about how the fact they haven't masturbated. I mean, it blows my mind that guys are tweeting that stuff. But if you're having trouble with motivation, lay off the fapping for or vastly reduce the fapping, and then you'll leave yourself with fewer outlets, and that will increase your desire.
Yeah.
Equally, it's like the burning your boats thing, isn't it? It could be like, okay, you want to become a digital nomad, well, just move to another country, just sell all your stuff and move to another country, sink or swim. You're going to have to make it work.
Yeah.
So put yourself out of your comfort zone by reducing the things that are going to give you comfort and think, oh, I don't need to bother to do this thing. Make it so you've got no choice but to achieve that thing you want to achieve, and then you'll make it happen.
Yeah. Because if you really wanted to do something, you would have started doing it by now. It's like, you guys will sort of say like, oh, I want to get better with the chicks, or I want to get money. I want to make money, or I want to get fit and have abs and shit. Well, you really want it? Or are you just saying that you want it? You just kind of want it. Are you obsessed with getting this result? Because if you're obsessed with it, you're going to get it. Because I know that because I've how do you think I got into porn? I was obsessed. Ask my roommate, like the guy I'm traveling with, the guy with Tom Umar Hunter. I actually lived with him multiple times. I lived with him. I lived with him in London.
Okay,
the first 6 months of my porn career in Europe, so he can testify to how obsessed I was. I studied it like it was an art form. Well, you could technically call it an art form, but I was religious about it. Like I was studying every aspect of this industry I could possibly find, finding any way to network my way in, learning anything I could, so that I could get 1% better chance at getting a gig. And it worked, right? But there's another thing. There's another aspect of that as well. Is like once you succeed at one thing, once your brain has evidence of you setting a goal and then achieving that goal, then anything becomes possible. Your brain wakes up to the idea that all I need to do is set a goal and then break it down into actionable steps. I've done this before. I could repeat this process. Then anything becomes attainable. Anything is stupid. This is why I like setting stupid goals, not stupid, but outrageous goals, because I know I've done this so many times in my life. I'm like, well, if I just break this down into actionable steps, I can actually achieve it. And I think a lot of people, all you need is one experience like that in your life, and it helps. If you get it at a younger age, it helps. Having one experience of you saying, I'm going to achieve X, here's me breaking it into actionable steps, and then going out and succeeding, you are giving your brain proof it needs to do it, to think that anything is possible now.
Yeah, exactly. And making it so that your back's up against the wall, I think is always a good thing to do. I'm not saying, don't be stupid. I mean, if you don't jack in your job if you've got no money and whatever. But within
don't storm the Capitol.
Exactly. Don't storm the Capitol. But within reason, making it so your back's up against the wall and you have no choice but to fight your way out of this, I think is a good thing. And certainly that has been apparently, according to Robert Greene, Dostoevsky did this. So Dostoevsky would. I only know this through Robert Greene, so I haven't corroborated this with any other source. But according to him, he said Dostoevsky would deliberately make himself skint. He would deliberately impoverish himself. He'd gamble away his money, almost deliberately, so that then he would be forced to write because he had no other choice. And I think when he wrote Crime and Punishment, he was doing it because he owed money. And it was like, well, shit, I've got to write. What else am I going to do? I've got to sit down and write this book because otherwise I'm destitute. My family's destitute. So making it so that you are in a situation where there's no choice but to succeed is a really powerful thing to do.
That's an example of what you would call stakes.
Yes.
Tim Ferriss actually talks about that in, I think it's The 4-Hour Chef.
Okay.
His third book, which is actually a book about learning. But it's the same principles in that book can be applied to a lot of things. And one of the main principles he talks about is that the idea of stakes. And I phrase it as getting emotional leverage on yourself.
Right.
So finding a way to get leverage on yourself. So it's like in that situation, like, okay, I owe so this guy is going to break my kneecaps if I don't pay him. I better start writing. All right, that's great leverage.
Yes.
Another really, really fun example of this, actually, I was reminded of recently. Again, the guy I've been traveling with, Tom Umar Hunter, he was a virgin when I'm sure he won't have a problem with us telling the story. He was a virgin when he got into the pickup community. And when I met him, he was a virgin. And we were going out to clubs and we were meeting chicks and stuff. And he wasn't getting any success. Or getting laid yet. Let's just say that, right? So he eventually, I think, I can't remember how he found out about this idea of stakes and stuff. He was like, this is a great idea. And he works as a programmer. He works on his computer. So he was like, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Sterling, I'm going to give you my laptop charger. And you can't give it back to me until I've lost my virginity.
Wow.
Within a week, he'd lost his virginity.
Wow. That's fantastic.
He was like, well, shit, I need to fucking work. I need my laptop to be charged. So every fucking night, every spare moment he had, he was hitting on chicks saying to close the deal.
Yes.
It worked.
Amazing.
Amazing. Just a little creative guys, and you can be shocked at what you can achieve.
Well, it's like the if you pointed a gun at your head, you'd be able to do it analogy. And that's something actually that dating instructors would often say to students. It's like, well, okay, you're saying you're scared to go and talk to that girl, but listen, if I pointed a gun at you, you go and do it, right? And it's like in Fight Club, isn't it? When he's like, what do you want to be? A veterinary surgeon. When Brad Pitt's like, all right, well, listen, if you don't become a veterinary surgeon, then I'm going to shoot you. And it's sort of like, there are many, many things that if we were in that extreme situation, that we would actually make happen. The reason that we don't make them happen is because we are holding ourselves back, really.
Because life is too comfortable. Life is so comfortable that it's easy for us to get by and not do anything. Right? Like, we've got a roof over our head. We've got Netflix. We've got YouTube. We've got like a job that pays the bills. We got Uber Eats. We don't have to fucking do anything. Life is so comfortable. There's nothing pushing us. So you have to do it. So in this day and age, you have to deliberately find ways to push yourself. Don't get me wrong, if you're growing up in the fucking slums, then you probably don't need to find something to motivate you. If your life conditions are so shitty that you need to get out, then you have all the motivation you need. But if you're living in the Western world and you're like a middle class average Western dude, life is so comfortable that you have nothing pushed. So you need to actively find and create ways to leverage it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And it's that, I think as well, the idea of being the hunter. Davina, he says, go out and hunt. And, the idea of being the hunter, the idea of like, I'm only going to eat what I kill, and the idea of having to is actually quite exhilarating in many cases. I find it really exhilarating. I find that, I'm at my best in all these different areas of my life. I'm at my best when it's like, okay, listen, it's my own resources. No one else is coming in to help here. I've got to solve this issue. I've got to do something. I've got to rise to this challenge. And I think it's, maybe it could be a little bit intimidating, but I think actually it could be really exciting as well. Because it's like, shit, it's me against the world. Well, let's go then. Let's throw the dice and see what happens. And you're either gonna succeed or you're gonna be destroyed. And either way, let's go for it.
Exactly. I think that's a fantastic place to wrap up, Troy. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. No, thanks ever so much, man. It's been a really good conversation.
Guys, smash the button while you're still here. Here is the link to Troy's Gumroad in the chat right there. It's my affiliate link, so you're helping me out as well. If you want to get any of Troy's infield products, this sort of stuff, see him actually talking to women in real life, that is where you get it.
I have actually talked to a woman in real life. I know that's unusual for somebody who's on Twitter, but there is evidence of it. And you've got my books in there as well. You've got Renegade Dating Blueprint, which is a collection of 11 of my books collected together. It's only $39. So, really, I should be selling that for significantly more. So, there's that. Yes, as Rich Cooper always says to me. And there's another one called Renegade Dating Domination in there, which is a collection of it's a 2-volume collection of loads of my articles and essays from the past few years. So a whole bunch of stuff in there. So have a look and use Stirling's link and
check it out.
Yeah, it's all good.
And in the meantime, as I mentioned in the show, I have created a brand new YouTube channel. It's in the link in the chat right now. Brand new channel. That is where I am posting all my behind the scenes and vlogs and travel adventure content from now on. So go check it out there. It is also going to basically be my backup channel just in case this one gets taken down, just in case something happens. This one, that is the backup. So make sure you subscribe over there just in case. And you can also keep up to date with all my my fun travels and adventures, going out to Vegas and meeting up with the Tates and things. So that'll do us for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I will see you again on Monday. And don't forget to check out Troy's social media links are all in the description below as well. His YouTube channel, his Instagram, his Twitter and everything. So make sure you give him a follow as well if you don't already follow him.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much, Sterling.